Hey, greetings everyone, Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we talked about how Arthas killed Uther and got the remains of Kel'Thuzad, and has set his sights, or he's been told by the demons, okay, now to fully resurrect him into this Arch-Lich, or Arc-Lich form. We're going to have to take him to a convergence of ley lines, which the closest one is in Quel'Thalas, where currently the High Elves get their power. But we know some things are going to happen because at some point before Warcraft Burning Crusade starts, they have to become Blood Elves, and we're still waiting for that event. All right, so let's read this one. It's called The Curse of the Worgen. I don't think it's going to talk about any of that. But we also know before Cataclysm, the Worgen have to become the Worgen. And I think there's actually, I don't know if there are Worgen before that, because they go back and add some Worgen characters. Let's find out. As Arthas, Menethil, and the Scourge marched north toward Quel'Thalas, other undead lingered in Lordaeron. Some shambled to the edges of the Plague Lands in the east. Others spilled south into a region called Silverpine Forest. The undead in Silverpine Forest made quick progress until their campaign ground to a halt in the shadow of the Greymane Wall. The enormous wood stone barrier stretched across the top of a peninsula that was home to the human kingdom of Gilnean. And anybody that's like an old-time gamer like me and played since the beginning can just remember back in the day when that was just a wall. You're just like, well, I know something's on the other side of that wall, but they never really, they kept it out of the picture for really 6 years before they busted it open. The Scourge's numbers were small at first, and Greymane was confident his people could simply wait them out. The undead would pull back once they realized they could not breach the wall, but the Scourge never flagged. They had no need of rest or food. More and more undead appeared outside Gilnean, and the army battered the wall day and night. On Greymane's orders, his army amassed. The gates to the kingdom swung open and a tide of Gilnean soldiers poured into Silverpine Forest. From atop the wall, Greymane watched disaster unfold. I don't know why you would do that. The Scourge crushed the Gilneans. Soldiers who fell in battle arose as undead and turned against their former comrades. Greymane knew it was only a matter of time before the Scourge would completely overrun his forces. The king turned to his royal archmage Aragorn to find a solution. Anybody who's played through the quests of WoW knows that Aragorn he's the one behind the Worgen curse. Aragorn had just the thing in mind. He had learned of mythical creatures called Worgen. They were wolf-like in appearance, but they walked on 2 legs as a human would. Aragorn didn't know the Worgen's full origins, but he did know where to find them, and we know from the first Chronicles that their origins come from a sect of night elf druids that went crazy. They tried to make these branches to build more world trees, and they ended up creating cursed evil world trees. Like they're bestial, they're uncontrollable. He had sensed the beast slumbering in another dimension, the ethereal realm known as the Emerald Dream, because they're druids. Summoning the creatures to Gilnean would be a challenge, but that wasn't what concerned Aragorn. According to legend, the Worgen were a savage race driven by primal fury. Controlling them would be difficult and dangerous. The question wasn't could he bring the Worgen to Gilnean, it was should he. Aragorn warned Greymane of the Worgen's unruly nature, but the king had no other option. The wolf beast seemed like his only hope. A battle raged outside the wall. As battle, Aragorn performed his summoning. He opened a rift connecting the physical world and the Emerald Dream, drawing the Worgen into Silverpine Forest. The wolf beasts wasted no time in turning their fury on the Scourge. They tore through the undead in a storm of fang and claw. That's, I think, like a nod to their druidic origins. The creatures were even more powerful than Aragorn had expected. Before long, the Scourge buckled. The undead fled before the Worgen and disappeared into Silverpine Forest. Then the wolf beasts turned on the Gilneans to satisfy their bloodlust. It was just as Aragorn had feared. Concepts of friend and foe were lost on the Worgen. They simply wanted to kill. The surviving Gilnean soldiers retreated behind the wall and the gates slammed shut. Greymane breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed at first that all was well. The Scourge were gone and the Worgen were trapped outside the wall. Then the first reports reached Greymane of Worgen inside the wall. What the king and Aragorn hadn't known was that the Worgen carried a curse. It had spread to Gilnean soldiers who had been bitten by the Worgen, Gilneans who had retreated behind the wall. Over time, the affliction transformed the human victims into wolf beasts. These new Worgens stalked through Gilneas and spread the curse to even more citizens. In trying to save Gilneas, Greymane had traded one monstrous enemy for another. That's actually a little bit simpler and neat and more tidy than I had imagined the origin of the wolf beast would be. It also explains why Gilneas, they've got their own problems. Like now they're going to be just ravaged and jacked for some time because they're going to be fighting and determining how to make it work. And maybe we'll check in on them, but we know that they don't really do anything else until Cataclysm. But interesting that that's where their origin happened back then. And it also explains why the Silver Pine Forest, in addition to the undead, has werewolves running through it, and pretty much always has. All right, cool. We got another episode in the pipe, 5x5, and I thank you so much for watching and listening. Hopefully I'll see you next time on Lore of Warcraft.